problem, but so there's different versions of the PHP language, and they may have different notations. And when they update a version, some old notations doesn't work or becomes an error in the new supporting system.
How many updates are there?
I think now we are working with PHP 5 since very recently. So
PHP 1 started in.
I don't know. So PHP 1 I don't know. For PHP 4, that's what I always use during my PHP and until today. So most of the time they should be compatible. So PHP 4 and PHP 5. But I think starting from somewhere 1 or 2 years ago, PHP 5 is now kind of the mainstream on the internet and also everywhere.
Why all the university websites also changed.
Right. And different universities, different organizations, they update it because this is a big update. So they typically don't happen when this version is newly introduced. They always happen 2 or 3 years after it is very stable, after we know there's no problem. So I suspect this is actually the problem behind our GREE-lab website recently.
As of 2015, work is underway on a new major PHP version named PHP 7.
7? Okay.
But I think they skipped 6.
Yeah, I guess they skipped 6. I've never heard of PHP 6. Okay. But anyhow, so this is the thing. Okay, so and also I think this is something you will see a lot in the future. So echo means on the screen you want to. So for most of the PHP code, if you write it here, they do the job for you, but nothing is shown on the. It's like I think this data there's silent mode or quiet mode and the loud mode, right? So this is the loud mode. After echo, this is something on the screen, but without that, that's the quiet mode. So people don't see unless it's within here. Okay. And another kind of side remark I think I need to say it sooner or later, so I will say now is when you program with PHP, when you program with the web pages, I think it doesn't necessarily happen with a very simple prisoner dilemma game, but now and then you see all kinds of error reports. They tell you, so cannot execute this, cannot execute that, cannot find this, cannot find that. Again, I would like to encourage you to take a positive attitude towards this, namely, error reports are our friends. That's I think you didn't teach me, but I think at least this is what I think. After the few years. So error reports are our friends. So when you can read the error report on your browser, then you know where the problem is and you can crack it. And especially some of the time they tell you the line number. So you can exactly go to that line and try to change it. The most terrible thing happens when there is an error, but there is no error report. And then you really, that's something, very difficult. So at the beginning, I think this will be also part of the learning process. Okay. So I think principles here, I also almost explained the things here. You have the Apache supporting the server, and then you have PHP communicating the data between the clients and the server. Okay.
So which page are you looking at now?
This is, I think, the introduction page. The introduction page.
Oh, yeah, I'm not moving.
Okay. So now let's go back. Let's turn on the PHP control again. So and see the difficult thing. Okay. So. You may be advised to say, you need to say localhost / phpMyAdmin, but most of the time you can just simply say localhost and they will lead you to the right page.
You can also just click admin.
Maybe, I don't know.
That's what I did.
Okay, So since I copied the whole folder from you, so I have the typical login name and I have the typical. So these things can be defined by yourself. So these are the databases in the thing. And so I think for this session, the first steps are you need to create a database and then create the tables in it and then try to define some variables so that later you can fill in those things with the values from the experiment.
I didn't have any password to fill in.
No.
me neither.
Right, this is because I think it's somewhere here. So I think now you also already know that everything that is kind of editable or everything that is the kind of the program part is stored in this htdocs folder, right? So you know this.
Sure, but how did you, I mean, what's different that you have to fill in the password and the login and I didn't have to do it?
Let me see. Where is? Okay. I believe there is a place that defines it. Maybe this one? No. Well, let's say it's not that important for this moment.
I would like to know the.
Yeah, I can find the page and tell you later. So it's just like I think if you read the thing, okay, so it is stored something very similar as this common income notepad file.
Okay, where
So-
to find that one?
Sorry?
Libraries, right?
Sorry?
In libraries, right?
Any libraries? I think it's I think no, sorry, I'm tweaking the wrong one. Okay, I think it's just also in all the normal files, right? You always have such a folder in the normal program file. So the password thing, it is just somewhere in one of these folders, and it's a notepad file similar to the common income where you can change the field and say now I want to define the login name and password.
There's a passwords.txt file.
I don't really think it's that one. When you really do an experiment, it's always better to have a login name and password just for the security of your data. But for teaching how to program this for the moment, I don't think it's of any importance. Okay. All right. I think now we can say we log into the system. We have the local host MyAdmin. We can look into how to create database and how to create these tables and variables. Okay. How to create a new database is just like, I think this is more or less straightforward. So you can just fill in the name and you can say create. For creating a database, I think, let's say, you don't need to choose anything, and there's nothing you really need to take special care of. No, you don't need to take any special care of. Okay.
So ultimately, where is that stored actually? Is that,
Sorry?
so if you create something, then where does it store that? Will it be stored on your hard disk or?
I think it's stored in the XAMPP folder, somewhere in the XAMPP folder.
Yeah, okay.
It is in the XAMPP folder, but I never directly get the database from the XAMPP folder because it's always very easy. If you, for example, if you want to get the data from one of the database, you can just use the export
Okay.
button.
Yeah.
So, and you always get a better export version by doing this. So that's why I never bother to search for where the file exactly is. And you can create a table. You can have number of fields. I think this is also pretty. Let's say common parameters. Let's say the fields are 5. I think there's nothing you need to take really a lot of special care of. And after that, I think you may notice that for this prisoner dilemma thing, for creating each variable, you might need to pay some attention. For example, I think this var chart, that is characters, namely A, B, C, D, E, F, G. If you say it's a name, they can so you can just fill in a pretty big number, so that's okay. I think there is something I want to say for this one. Right, the int means integer, and decimal you can fill. Yes, you can fill in several numbers. I guess is there a float option or not? Let me say. I just want to say a few things. Yes, there is a float option, but for most of the times, we do not recommend you to have too many float variables in your database. The reason is very simple. That is the float variable, because it's float, there's no restriction on the length of the number, so it occupies a lot of space, space for the data. So the only thing I want to say, I think, or two things. So first one is, if you can use integer, never use float. Or if you can use some decimal, if you can define all of these numbers, never use float. And secondly, yes, do notice that there is a type of variable that is called text. So if you want to have a questionnaire where you ask the subjects to fill in their, let's say, strategies or so on and so forth, don't use varchar, use text. Because these one, even though they can give you a lot long sentences, but actually it doesn't take a lot of space. So this is the thing. So I think varchar always takes, I think, kind of the minimal space in your minimal space in the database. Float always largest, and text is very nice.
So the difference between char and text is that with char you have to give the length in advance.
Right, and they really count it for you.
Yeah.
And for text, actually, they can write infinitely long. But I think the thing is, because for char, they detect you like what is the type or what is the length of this, so that also occupies some space. But for text, they know that this is just like a picture. So I take it, it's long, but I don't need to process it with any of my capacity, so they won't take a lot of space. I think this is for the variables. This is the question you may need. And then I think we are already almost at step 3, right? It's adapt the common income.
Now I got stuck.
There you get stuck. So I think I forgot to say something. Maybe that partly explains why you got stuck. Actually, when we do an experiment, most of the times we share the common .inc file, namely, this is kind of a standard common income. If you program it, it takes a lot of time and it may not be stable, but for create experiments, mostly the standard common inc can deal with almost all the situations.
Okay. Where can I find it and where do I have to put it?
It is put into the program folder. For example, if you want to run Charity Market A2, you just put the common inc into Charity A2.
Okay, but we now have made a new Prisoner's Dilemma. Okay.
Then you just throw this common income into PD, but I haven't sent it to you.
The
So
you made in step 1.
I can send it now to you.
Yeah, but where can I? Because I have
It's in htdocs,